Well, I'll say it's 4 o'clock. Call the meeting to order. Could we please have a roll call?
Laura Sterkley,
Present.
Bob McNary,
Here.
Eric Gleason,
Here.
Victor Johnson,
Here.
Tom Jamay, I see you online. Can you unmute yourself? Tom, are you present? Okay. Julie Reynolds is absent. Reynolds is present. Sorry, Randall. Sorry, not Reynolds.
Thank you, Crystal. Would we all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, which is stand, a nation under God, liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Has everyone had an opportunity to review the agenda today?
I did.
Yeah. Are there any changes? If not, I would like a motion to approve the agenda as it stands.
I'll move to approve the agenda as it stands.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Bob. All those in favor of the agenda as it stands, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. Next up, has everyone had an opportunity to review the minutes of January 28, 2026, our last meeting?
I did. I just had one comment under commissioner concerns. It just listed during my comment period, it just listed Carl's first name as the associated with the historic programs at the original courthouse. So we should add Verkuteren, his last name, in there. But that's all I noticed.
Thank you, Eric. Yes, I agree with that. Victor, Bob, any changes?
No, thanks. I'll make the motion that we approve the minutes as written for the January 28, 2026 meeting.
Thank you, Bob.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Eric. All those in favor of approving the minutes as they stand with adding Carl's last name in, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Hearing none, the ayes have it. Next up, we will be doing the public comment portion of our meeting. During this portion of the meeting, anyone may speak on any subject that does not appear on our agenda, and 5 minutes will be allowed per person. Does anyone have any comments regarding something that's not on our agenda tonight? Please come up to the microphone, state your name and your address.
My name is My name is Chuck Gomez with the Granada Theater, 223 2nd Street. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I thought I'd come and make a up-to-date report on the Granada Theater, especially the digital marquee. The digital marquee, I have to thank many of the committees here at City Hall for having the foresight to maintain our history and yet allow time to march forward. With the addition of our digital marquee, there was much concern in the community whether or not it would be appropriate. Well, after researching much history of the Granada, the marquee has changed many times through the years. The marquee itself and the message board has been updated 3 or 4 times through nearly a century of use. Now that we have our digital marquee in place, I felt I felt I would be remiss if I didn't bring to the attention to the Landmarks Committee the overall acceptance of the community of our digital marquee. To date, we have received literally hundreds of compliments on our digital marquee. We were able to incorporate it into the historic marquee, retaining the historic feel and architecture of the building and the Granada, and yet updating the digital message board of that marquee. Case in point with nonprofit use of the marquee. Some months ago, I received a phone call from the Discovery Center, and the new PR person there said, Chuck, you're friends with Sue over here. And Sue mentioned that I should give you a call or an email about one of our events coming up at the Discovery Center. Well, I'm kind of late in letting you know, but we have an event coming up tomorrow that seats approximately 250 people. They have to make a reservation, at least for a space and a seat. And to date, 20 hours before the event, we only have about 129 people signed up for it. We're a little despondent over that number, and we're hoping to sell it out from attendance standpoint. So it's too late for me to put anything up there now, but maybe for future reference. And I said, it's never too late. If we put something up there tonight or tomorrow morning, and you got just one more person, that would be beneficial. Send me your information. Well, when I say me, I mean Deborah, but send us the information for the event. She did not have time to send it that evening, but sent it the morning of the very event. And later, a few days after that, I received an email that said she had received an overwhelming response and attendance to the event. They indeed sold out their 250 seats and spaces. Now, I really can't take credit for that. I don't think our digital marquee can take total credit for that, but it sure didn't hurt. It looks fine. We have tried to keep a historic look to it, and we have posted dozens and dozens of nonprofit events up on our marquee. As a matter of fact, it was just a few days ago that someone on the committee came up to me and said, by the way, do you think we could use the venue, the Granada, maybe put something up on the marquee of an event that we have coming up? We just received a grant on it. And of course, I said, yes, we can. We have offered our marquee to nonprofit groups, to churches, to schools, to the MED, to the Lions, to associations, on and on and on, and have received nothing but encouragement and praise of the look of the digital marquee. I thought it was my position to at least come to the Landmarks Historic Society here to let you know that we are appreciative, thankful for allowing that to take place. And we will continue to keep history first and foremost at the Granada on 2nd Street and on the marquee. And we thank you all very much. And that's my update on our new Granada digital marquee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gomez. Were there any further public comments to be made tonight on a topic that was not appearing on our agenda? Seeing none, we will move on. Now is the specified time for the Historic Landmark Commission to conduct a public hearing. The purpose of this public hearing is to consider the following matter. HLC application 224-25, which is at 412 Washington Street. The substantive criteria upon which the Historic Landmarks Commission will base its decision on this matter are contained in the city's comprehensive plan and land use and development ordinances. A public hearing is required by law and certain rules apply. First and foremost, you must be recognized by the chair in order to speak and present testimony. When recognized by the chair, please state your name, and the mailing address for the record. The hearing is required by law to be recorded. Generally, the public hearing procedure is as follows. Prior to the public hearing, a determination will be made of the qualifications of the commission members and allow for a challenge from the audience. I will open the public hearing with the staff report. The purpose of the staff report is to further identify the applicable criteria of the application being considered and to provide background information about the application. After the staff report, we will hear testimony from the proponents, those persons in favor of the application. Next, there will be testimony from the opponents, those not in favor of the application. Next, there will be testimony from anyone else who wishes to offer testimony or ask questions. Then to honor the right of rebuttal, we will again hear from those in favor of the application. To expedite the hearing, commission members may ask questions of persons as they testify. When this process has concluded, we will close the public testimony portion of the hearing. During the hearing, some important standards apply. First, all those who testify must hold their testimony to the decision criteria. As in all land use hearings, there are a complete set of rules, procedures, and criteria that we must follow. Second, failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford the commission members and the parties an opportunity to respond to that issue precludes an appeal to the city council based on that issue. Third, failure of an applicant to raise constitutional or other issues relating to proposed conditions of approval with details specific enough to allow the city to respond to the issue precludes an action for damages in the circuit court. Fourth, prior to the conclusion of the public hearing, any participant may request an opportunity to present additional evidence, arguments, or testimony regarding the application. If such a request is made, the law states that the commission must grant the request by either continuing the hearing to a time and date at least 7 days from the date of the initial hearing, or record must be kept open for a period of at least 7 days. These are the rules. Are there any questions? Seeing none. Do any of the members of the commission have any ex parte contacts, conflicts, interest, or bias which would prevent you from rendering an impartial decision on this matter? Seeing none. Does anyone in the audience wish to challenge the qualifications of any of the members of the commission? Thank you. The public hearing is now open. May we please have the staff report?
Good afternoon, board members. Joshua Chandler, Community Development Department. I will be covering for Sandy this evening, so bear with me here. Hopefully I capture everything that she was going for with this. A little bit of, slight history on this building before we dive into it. I've worked with Scott before on this project, Scott Austin, the applicant, in 2019 and 2020. This is the site of the former Weber's Cleaners. I think he did a pretty great job when he remodeled Weber's Cleaners, the front building. We'll talk about this back building, which is going to be the focus here. So yeah, I think the last time Scott and I had actually kind of worked on this was in 2020. I think it was right before COVID or when COVID was setting in. So it's been a few years and kind of come around, and I'll be assisting with this for the rest of the evening or the afternoon here. So the application 224-25, the applicant is Scott Austin. It is 412 Washington Street. There's the map and tax lot information there. It is in our CBC zone, CBC 1, which is the overlay for historic districts. It's our downtown commercial. So the proposal, and I apologize, this text is small, I'm noticing it now. The applicant is requesting approval for the demolition of a non-contributing accessory building along the alleyway and to the rear of the primary building, which is to the rear of the historic Weber's Cleaners building located along Washington Street. So this is a photo the applicant has provided to us of the existing conditions of Weber's Cleaners. Back in 2019, we would have shared the existing conditions at that time, and he did a really nice job with the entire rehab of that front building. This is the vicinity map to kind of orient yourself here between, just off of 3rd Street, just off 3rd and 4th, sandwiched between 3rd and 4th on Washington. So just wanted to dive in a little bit to the historic status. The one thing we wanted to point out here, of course, this is a demolition application, so we're bringing in front of you to be reviewed through the review criteria of a demolition. And you know, in our research of this building, the Weber's Cleaners, the front portion of it is really the historic. That is the historic significant property. As we dove into it, there was in 93, we had our National Register nomination. At that point, the property was listed as historic non-contributing, but then in 97, it was updated and it was listed as secondary. And then the Oregon State Inventory has it listed as eligible contributing. Of course, Building A is not part of this application that we're discussing. Building B, that's the rear building. I'll just continue to call it Building B throughout the conversation here. It's connected to Building A by a wood-framed flat roof breezeway. In 93, there was, 93 and 97, well, and the Oregon State Inventory, there's no specific call out for the significance of the building. And really, in the inventories themselves, there is, I think the 97 had reference to it, 93 did not. The Oregon State Inventory has no information on that back portion of the building. But, we still have to kind of view this thing as the fact that the site itself is a secondary contributing resource. But the back building itself, when you look at the text and the description of the property, that back building, I think there is maybe 1 or 2 sentences talking about that back building. So Building B, it's in the rear. It's rather utilitarian in style, does not match the front style of Building A. It's connected by Building A by that breezeway that I mentioned. In 2020, apologies for the glare here. I guess you don't have it on your screen, so that's good. So in 2020, the repairs, there was some repairs and partial demolition that was approved by the HLC at that time, but it was not completed due to conditions that I believe the applicant can address further. Right there, and you see in the photo that the power pole that is coming up, that is really the corner of the sinking that we will talk about. The foundation is failing. The applicant has brought in Terra Firma, respected foundation contractor, to take a look at this. And really, the best way to think about it, and you see it in some of the cracks, that back portion of the building is really sinking. So it's causing significant structural cracks throughout the building itself. And there's starting to be some separation between the building sections because of this cracking. I just wanted to provide some photos here that are included in the packet. Those are the cracks, showing kind of that separation. On the left-hand side, on the right-hand side, hopefully you can see them. They're included in the packet, but that's the leaking. The roof is entirely failed, so there's leaking all throughout, deteriorating of, the rafters up top. And this is an image, I think, that was provided in that presentation in 2020. And I just wanted to show that, this is, of course, from the inside looking out. There's that clear separation that's occurring as a result of this foundation failure. So the estimates, the applicant is estimating the cost to repair is about $250,000 to $300,000 to repair this back building. And that is really to get the building into a state where you can start investing into interior improvements. Construction costs, when they received a quote from Terra Firma back in 2020, those costs have increased by about $6,000 to $10,000. So unless you act quick on trying to repair that foundation, we're probably just going to continue to see an increased cost. The applicant states that the repair is economically unreasonable and is choosing to go forward with the demolition. They have mentioned that it's currently listed. It's currently listed for sale. The back building has been a deterring factor for just about every individual that has come to look at it. Like I said, the applicant will be able to speak on that a little bit. The proposed outcome, this is just kind of showing crow's eye view. Building A, want to stress on this, Building A, no intention whatsoever of impacting the historical character of it. Obviously, there's a connection of the covered breezeway connected to Building A. There'll probably be some patching or whatever to fix, the connection at that point. But that really the back half, I would say the back 2/3 of the property is what will be demolished. They will be retaining the historic Building A, creating some additional parking in that back area, and the goal to improve the usability and marketability. That is effectively the slides that I have for you. This was reviewed. Although the back portion, as I mentioned, doesn't really have, staff would argue the back portion doesn't have much historical significance to the building itself. It's not built in the same architectural style, but it is on the same property. It is connected. So we did need to bring it forward for this demolition application. The demolition was notified twice as required by code. We have not received any comments throughout, since that was posted. And from there, I really just kind of wanted to open up the conversation, maybe have an opportunity to give the applicant an opportunity to speak on it. But, when you look at the requirements for a demolition, you are looking at, the commission is tasked with looking at various aspects. Those being that, the state of repair of the landmark. You could argue that it is a landmark because it's on the same property, but entirely disconnected. You could tell it was very utilitarian CMU block construction. And the fact, HLC did approve for at least a portion of it to be demolished because I think this was considered, at that point 5 years ago. It's only deteriorated since. So there was an appetite by the HLC back then to see that portion of the building coming down. As I mentioned, costs continue to increase. So one of the aspects is looking at the reasonableness of the cost of renovation or repair. As I mentioned, those quotes or the estimates that I provided to you, the applicant does feel that those costs are for renovation or repair are not reasonable. They might be able to comment on the overall cost of, maybe what the building itself is worth or the property is worth, or maybe what they're selling it for. But $250,000 to $300,000 is they consider to be an unreasonable cost. And in doing so and tearing down the back portion, there is still the goal of, preserving the landmark. And I would have to say, I'm a big fan of the art modern style or modern style art, kind of a spin-off of Art Deco. I'm personally a fan of that architectural style. And I think they're still going to be able to keep that intact, and they have done a great job. I think they have been a steward of the historic preservation in the community with the work and the money that they've invested into the property. They did try back in 2020 to try to, look at potentially restoring Building B, but it's like I said, due to some delays in that period of time. It's just costs. If anybody has been involved in any kind of construction since COVID, costs have just continued to increase on so many different things. So with that, I am more than happy to answer any questions that the board members may have.
Thank you, Josh. Are there any questions from the commission for Josh? Yes, Eric.
Do we know how old Building B and the breezeway between it, is it part of the original construction or was it built as an addition, or do we have?
That, unfortunately, is what there is no information on. Yeah, that's what, as I was working with Sandy on this application, I kept stressing on it a little bit. Don't just throw out the word non-contributing, because that's significant in the historic preservation world. But it's just from the information we can find, it's one or two lines. Like I said, in one of I think in the nomination form, there was no mention of it. And then I think when the property was actually revisited in 97, it was, they looked at it again. That is when they added just one or two lines in there. So that's the information that we have on it. I looked at the Sanborn maps. It was a little unclear as to what exactly it was, but the construction of the building itself, I want to say, Scott could correct me on this. I think it was 1938. I think that's the cutoff as well for secondary designation in the Dalles. So I think our Sanborn map in the area is probably like the one I could find is like a 1920, correct? me if
Yeah,
I'm
we
wrong.
have like the 26 one. and
Yeah.
It isn't, neither building is on the 26. And then we have
Yeah.
the 1961 when it's
Right.
all on there, but we have kind of a gap in between. I
Right.
know those are kind of the publicly available Sanborns, but at some point there was like a 1940s one floating around
Hmm.
too, but I think the city had to pay to get that one.
Oh yeah. I mean, it would be worth it. Those things are extremely valuable.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess I feel like, if my memory serves me, I feel like there was something on the site in the 20s, but wasn't that building, obviously, because
Yeah.
built,
Yeah.
not that period of time, doesn't have that period of architecture. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I
the
think there was
information we
a
have.
garage there or something.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Sure, yeah.
So it's pretty clear on the map, but building A and building B, the south side, that's just a wall. There's no enclosed square footage back there. It's not that connects the two. It's
Correct. It's entirely open. And the breezeway is really like, if you kind of go back to that picture, the breezeway is, really on the bottom, like the bottom 1/3.
right.
The rest of it is just open.
I drove through there. I just couldn't tell if there was any on that back wall, if there was like, an enclosed square footage space. So it's just a wall at the
Yeah, just the
before
wall.
the medical arts building.
Yep, exactly.
I remember talking to Virgil Choate about this property, and he told me the story on that building, and for the life of me, I can't remember what it is.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I've heard the story, but yeah, and we don't have Virgil to ask anymore. So
Yeah, I've been in the building, with Scott some 5 years ago. At that point, it was pretty deteriorated. I know that this commission heard the request to demolish the Tony's building, some years ago now, and in and out of the Tony's building. I mean, it was, I'm not going to say it's apples to apples comparison, but I mean, they were both in very rough shape.
Thank you, Josh.
Is there an entrance into building A from the breezeway down in the northeast corner?
Yes.
And that'll be just left untouched?
Correct. Yeah, I'd imagine there's probably, and Scott will be able to like fill in. I imagine, once you remove that breezeway, whatever connection points there might have to be some stucco patching that occurs and match, but it'll still remain.
And are we talking about removing the little archway that is kind of a entranceway from the alley into the open parking lot? You got a parking lot there with no roof over it, in a sense, but you got that little driveway cover when you first drive in.
Yeah, that would
That'll
be.
come out.
Yep, that's the covered breezeway portion that's there. Yep.
Okay.
Are there any further questions for staff at this time? Seeing none. Thank you, Josh.
Yeah, you bet. Thank you.
Does anyone wish to testify in favor of this application? Please come up to the microphone, state your name and your address for the record, please.
Scott Austin, 3019 Alexander Drive, Albany, Oregon. Yes, well, first, thank you for taking the time to review the application. And we spend a lot of time evaluating, the structural integrity of the building. And as Josh mentioned, we spent a lot of time, effort, and money and everything restoring the significant part of the property is what we thought is on Washington Street there. And it turned out very nice. But unfortunately, the back building, it's got some pretty major concerns and issues there that, we feel that also by taking down the building, we think it enhances the historical property in the front building. For one, parking and, you know, in the back there, we're looking at, we don't have it described here yet, but some potential ornamental type fencing to maybe enhance, you know, than just a gravel parking lot or something like that. But yeah, I appreciate you guys' time.
Does the commission have any questions for Mr. Austin? Yeah.
So can I clarify just one thing? I'm sorry. So on that breezeway where the breezeway here, you know, where Josh says, so it's not supported by either building. It has
Okay.
metal posts that are supporting the building with glue lambs across with a ceiling. So where it attaches to the actual buildings is just flashing for rain water. So there's no physical connection there. It's self-supporting.
And so then behind that breezeway, there's just kind of a covered passageway between the two buildings. Is that?
That is the
I got it.
breezeway. So there's covered passageway and I want to say, I should have measured, but it's probably 10 feet, 12 feet wide.
Mhm.
And then it just opens up to, you know, as you go back into the property. Okay.
Yeah. It doesn't affect the application, just from my own curiosity. Who are you working with at Terra Firma?
Worked with, can't remember his name.
It's all right. It's
Is it Don Fahey?
Don Fahey.
That's who I worked with. He's really, really good.
Yeah, great guy.
Yeah. Thank you.
So I had a question. If you demolish the building, will you still have to reinforce the ground to keep it from sinking, or is it the building that's itself, the weight of the building that's causing this sinking?
It's the weight of the building. I think once the building is removed, that the ground is, so, you know, would support anything that,
But there was an original building behind the wall in the alley, cause when we researched it before for the restoring of the front part, we talked about the back part at that time as a commission. And we opened that roller door and there was another wall right there all stuccoed up. It kind of looked like, what are we gonna do here, you know?
yeah, that's correct.
But I don't know which one was the heavy. The heavy is the outside wall or the heavy is the inside wall, pulling the outside wall down.
Yeah, it's really hard to determine, you know, and working with Don, you know, when he looked at it, you know, that was his initial, you know, when he says, once we get into it, you know, things could change on us, you know, because we can just go by what we can see, you know. And so it's a hard to say, this is it and this is gonna fix it,
Mhm.
basically.
Is that the corner where the roof has failed as well?
Yeah, where it's
Is-
all separating and, you know, right there where that big telephone pole is, right on that corner. And
Yeah.
oh, go ahead.
And that's where the rainwater comes off there too, right? The scupper or whatever.
And originally that property, when you go back in history of it, in between the two buildings used to sit this old house. And they actually used to run the cleaning from one building through the house to the other building. So there used to be a house right in between those two buildings, an old house. And they kind of built around it. And then once the house was no longer structurally safe, I would imagine they removed it. But yeah, it took me a while to find that, but it's pretty interesting.
Well, that explains a lot of things that have never been uncovered to me before. Because it's a wonderful idea, but the parking lot still wasn't covered, so you were gonna get your head wet if you jumped out in the parking lot there. And you never really emphasized going in the back door of the cleaners that I knew of. You still walked around and came in the front door. So, okay. Thank you.
Are there any further questions for Mr. Austin? Seeing none, thank you very much. At this time, does anyone wish to testify in opposition to the application? Seeing none, we will proceed.
Ding dong.
Thank you. Yeah, we're closing the public hearing portion of this meeting. Thank you, Bob. Okay, at this time, we will discuss amongst ourselves as a commission. Anyone have any comments or how you all feeling tonight about this application?
Well, of course, I'm one to always not want to see things torn down. And it is part of the kind of the dry cleaning history of the building, but it looks like it might have, with all the neglect that has taken place over the years, it might not be feasible to bring it back with a reasonably economically. I did remember my Facebook feed because I'm so into historic preservation. I get this one thing that's this product that you, a fiberglass reinforced product that you can put on your basement, cracking basement walls to reinforce them. And then you don't have to do the whole foundation stuff, but that's probably maybe not an appropriate fix for this.
Not historical.
Well, it's an interior thing, so the exterior would still look okay.
Any further comments or discussion? Do we have enough information then to make a decision or render a decision? Did you have
Yes,
them, Bob?
we do. Yes, we do. I gotta find it. What numbers are we looking for and all that good stuff? No, go ahead. I was fumbling hoping you'd volunteer.
Oh, it looked like you wanted to do it.
No, I didn't. I just feel that it's one less old building that's empty and not used in our community, which is a sad way to describe it, but I don't know any other way to describe it. It's just an old building that has no use at our present time. So it probably is best that it be demoed and rather than fall down and make an eyesore. So where do I find all these numbers there? Oh, there we go. I make the motion that we approve the application 22425 412 Washington Street for Scott Austin to demolish or call it whatever word where how we spell it there, the building B, if I'm correct.
Yep.
And the breezeway.
Thank you, Bob. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Victor. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, all those opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it.
And and I will, just want to throw in one plug for a city program that we have. I don't know if this is the appropriate time to do it, but I'll definitely encourage Scott, and we can connect after if you haven't connected with our economic development officer, Jake Anderson, on the potential to assist the brownfield program that we have to assist in the demolition. This program can provide phase 1, phase 2, and this was a heavy industrial user being a cleaner. So it might be ripe for brownfield redevelopment funds. So I just wanted to throw that out there, which is a program that we do have here at the city.
Thank you, Josh. Would someone like to make a motion for passing resolution 208-26?
I'll move that we approve HLC Resolution 208-26 for HLC application 224-25 from Scott Austin.
Thank you very much, Eric. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Victor. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
May I interrupt for one moment?
Yes, Bob.
You let me, and I did it myself, and I should have known better. Was there any conditions that we were supposed to? Eric, you and I are supposed to be old timers. We're not supposed to do this.
Well, I think it did include conditions, but we didn't change any of the conditions, so we're probably
Okay, with the conditions as written,
Yes.
that should be amended to the original motion. And that's the same thing we have to have on this motion
Yeah.
that Eric just made. Sorry to interrupt you,
No.
but
Do you think we should redo the previous one?
yes, I'll second. Victor's already second, so.
Were you
Sorry
changed?
to interrupt you, sir, but I thought we ought to not have to come back and do this over again because we dropped a sock.
So just to clarify, for my sake, you wanted to approve the application with the conditions as they stood.
Right.
So I don't believe we have to go back and revote it because we
No.
didn't change anything. Okay. Okay, and so I have a motion and a second. So now I'm going to call the vote for HLC Resolution 208-26. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. And this is with the conditions as they stand.
Right on.
Thank you. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. Seeing none, the resolution passes. And then next up, it looks like we have our goal setting. So, Mr. Austin, if you would like to leave at this time, thank you very much.
Thank you.
You understand what I mean?
Yes, yes. Josh, were you going to lead us on the goal setting?
I am, yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, so Sandy's out, so I'm covering for her. I do have to say she did a great job. I think with, restructuring this, I think it provides I think she's explained it's a very, strategic way to go about goals. And hopefully, it seems like she's captured the goals that have been carried on throughout the years, and I think this kind of gives us more of an action plan. The city recently adopted an economic opportunities analysis just at our Monday city council meeting, and in doing so, staff had also restructured our comprehensive plan, which is kind of written the same way as these HLC goals with the EOA. So it kind of follows that same process where it gives you what your goal is and those action steps to follow as you go. So I think she did a great job. So hopefully I can do as good of a job with the rest of this conversation for y'all. Give me 1 second here. What my plan was is I was just going to go through the slides, how the slides were. We prepared a set of slides for everybody. I was just going to go over to remind everybody what we had just discussed at the last meeting. Also, Sandy had prepared a vision statement and a mission statement. I was going to prepare, I think that was the request of the HLC for that to occur. So I just want to do that really quick. Let me share my screen. All right, so as discussed, we're going to go over the rest of the 2026 goal setting. Hopefully, we will wrap it up this evening. The vision statement, the Dalles is a community where historic and cultural resources are preserved and thoughtfully integrated into development, strengthening neighborhood character, economic vitality, and a shared sense of place. I just wanted, the board to be able to look at this, let it resonate. I think this is different. These were prepared prior, after your last meeting. So just wanted to make sure if this checks out, if you feel like there's a need to change any of the language, we can make notes. We can kind of do it on the fly here. Other than that, we can move on to the mission statement, but I'll let you kind of sit with it here.
I like it. How do you all think?
Good to me.
I think it works.
Okay. Well, we'll go on to the mission statement, which is a little more wordy. So, mission statement is to protect and preserve the historic and cultural resources of the Dalles by promoting appropriate development, preserving historic housing, stabilizing property values, educating the public about the city's heritage, enhancing community and economic vitality, and ensuring compliance with the city's comprehensive plan and statewide planning goal 5.
My only comment on this is preserving historic housing just sounds like we're just doing it for homes and not,
Structures,
yeah, structures. Yes, thank you.
Historic properties, maybe.
Yeah.
properties.
Okay.
Yeah, property sound good.
Does the HLC really stabilize property values? Are we doing that? So, I mean, does that need to be in the mission?
Yeah, I don't know if there's a direct link with the commission and property values necessarily.
Might need to cut some fat out of this thing. It's
Yeah, one thought too, and I mean, you all can, and my apologies, I wasn't involved in the last session here. One way to look at it, do you really need a vision and a mission statement? It seems like your vision statement kind of summarized a lot of what's said here. This just gets a little more into the weeds. Just a thought for the board. We're happy to do whatever you feel.
yeah, it might be my fault because I told her just to plug it into Chat GPT and see what it's spit out. So
Yeah, watch out for AI.
yeah, be running everything. Well, maybe we should just start with that question. Do we need a mission and a vision statement? Can we just have one?
I think one would be enough.
Seems like one would be enough.
I do like the verbiage that's used in this more though than the that we had for the vision. However, now I'm reading, what is the statewide planning goal number 5?
obscure.
That's the statewide planning goal that specifically calls out the value of historic preservation.
Thank you, Eric.
Might change eventually. No idea what it was.
Yeah, it's been one of those planning goals for as long as I've been involved,
Yeah.
pretty long term.
They're doing some updates to it soon in this next, couple years, I believe. But yeah, it's one of the original 14.
Any other comments or questions regarding?
I kind of like the word facilitate. Promoting is fine, but facilitate it, like, I think it means make it happen more, facilitate it, the actual making it happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like a good change.
To facilitate the historic.
By facilitating,
The second line there on the slide. I don't know if it's second line for you.
Instead of promoting.
Yeah. That's what you're talking about, right?
Yeah. And it just off the top of my head, I haven't thought about it too hard, but because to me, you could promote something and never do anything about it. We want to make it happen.
Yeah. I agree. How you feel about it?
Well, I don't see anything there that is going to change our mode of operation. Everything, like you said, is probably not commonly understood by the average citizen, and I consider myself average. But what we're saying there is we want to maintain the city as a historical landmark. And we sure do have them. We just don't have them advertised.
So from what I'm hearing, I made a couple changes here. that second line there by facilitating. I added that in there. I also changed it to, preserving historic properties. I think that's very important. And then I took out stabilizing, what was it? The stabilizing property
Value,
values.
yeah.
Aside from that, do we feel comfortable with this one? I can go back to the main screen here for you.
With the influx we've had over the 150 years we've been here or whatever, we're bound to have difference in architectural style blended together with new. And the big item that is important to everyone is that, yeah, it's historic, but he isn't paying any attention to it and he's letting it fall down and it looks more rampant than it does look good. And it's hard to get people buying an older home that maybe isn't well built to go to all the expense of building it up and maintaining it in the historical character that it was. That I'll live here until the front porch falls off and then I'll go someplace else. And that's hard for the property owner that sees that, and lives with it, I should say. You can't force your neighbor to do something that he doesn't want to. It's his property, historic or otherwise, you know. So I don't know how you could word that any differently.
My other question is ensuring compliance with the city's comprehensive plan. And do we also need compliance with the ordinance as well, or?
Yeah, that can be added in. Yeah, easily. Ensuring compliance with the Dalles Municipal Code, Comprehensive Plan, and Statewide Planning Goal 5.
Okay, so
Yeah.
the ordinance is part of the municipal code?
Yeah.
Okay. And is it still that 1994 ordinance?
Probably.
Okay. I mean, I kind of like the 94 ordinance. Is,
All right. So how are we feeling about this? Let me put
I
it
like
back up so it's not squinting their eyes here.
Yeah, I like it.
Okay. So then from that, maybe since this one's a little more detailed and thoughtful, then maybe take out that vision statement.
I
I
would
think
say
they kind
so.
of do the same thing ultimately. Okay. Okay. Well, thank you. Going into these other slides, they're really going to be focused on what y'all had already discussed here. So goal 1, strengthen historic resources and documentation. I just wanted to bring these back up for you just in case everybody can kind of give them that final review. So the action items here: update the Dalles Municipal Code, Chapter 1112, Historic Resources, and develop a comprehensive preservation plan for the Dalles. Does this all seem to still resonate with the board here? All right. So goal number 2 is update policies and planning. So the action items would be updating and digitizing historic inventories, develop an online inventory and related educational resources on the city's website, initiate new nominations of unidentified properties to local and national registers. That's the Amaton Field, etc. A potential test case of city-owned property. Was this a note or how it was actually written? And then produce detailed documentation and evaluation of key historic sites. The Rock Fort, or excuse me, the Rock House, which are former railroad structures, and the Rock Fort Heritage Site activation.
I believe B is correct with the verbiage using test because we wanted to test city-owned property that we wanted to nominate and see if we could then go out and do a little bit more with citizens and such, but
Okay.
we wanted to start
Yeah,
off
yeah.
with the city. I believe that's what is our
Yeah,
thinking,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, so
Yeah, I think we were thinking about that brass paving plaque that's there at the corner of
The-
Lincoln and Third
Okay.
Church, right?
Okay.
in
Yeah.
front of St. Peter's Church.
Yeah,
Okay. All right.
that looks good to me.
And then of course, just an FYI, we'll go through and fix any, we'll make everything is cleaned up here in case anything on this slide is, we don't have punctuations correct and things like that. We'll do a final run through at the very end. So goal 3 is improve site-specific preservation efforts. The action item is support restoration projects at high-priority historic sites such as the Pioneer Cemetery and the upper windows of the Waldron Getchell Building. All right. Goal 4 is expand public engagement and interpretation. Action items, create prototype design for new historic building plaques and promote installation. Support the development of guided and self-guided tours of historic properties. And then the addition of student representatives for HLC for broader youth participation, possibly looking into the Aspire program at the high school or similar type programs.
The only change that I would make, I believe the SPIRE is an acronym, so I believe it should all be caps.
Okay. Let me just make one quick change there then. All right. So goal 5 is support and promote community-wide historic preservation efforts. The action items are encourage and advocate for the preservation, continued use, and appropriate restoration of significant historic properties and districts throughout the community, such as the Waldron Getchell Building, Fort Dalles, Anderson, is it Anderson?
Anderson.
Yeah, Homestead Museum, and Vehicle Storage Display Building, the Dalles High School, Colonel Wright Elementary School, Rock Fort Heritage Site, and Historic Chinatown. And then through research, guidance, and implementation of adopted preservation plans. Seem like that checks out. I'm just going to change this before I forget. All right. Goal 6 is provide accessible historic preservation education, training, and resources in person and online to support local homeowners, contractors, commissioners, and the broader community. And these action items, they were a little more brief than the others. We're happy to expand on the language if you'd like us to, but what was called out were workshops, funding and assessment fees, and then participation in the Historic Preservation Month. Check out with everybody.
Yeah, I was just confused what we needed to define further. I don't have any of my notes going into that, so I don't know what we were wanting to define. Was this the fees that that the applicants needed to pay? Is that what we were trying to?
Maybe it's review them or something like that.
Well, I think we were refining some of the cost of putting this in public newspapers.
Yep, that's definitely something on our radar as far as that consideration. Do we want to continue to notify every application, or were we just going to? We had a brief conversation, or is it just going to be demolitions?
Is that a state requirement or is that city?
I have to check that requirement. I know for sure it is a city requirement. So we can, look into that further.
Triple, isn't it? Eric,
I don't know about CHIPO regulations about that.
well, I think you would have to tell them we're gonna do it before we.
Didn't we used to have a grant that could pay the fees for applicants, or is that not a thing anymore?
From what I heard, I think Commissioner Gleason mentioned that.
I think the HLC grant used to kind of offset some of those staff costs associated with applications, but I don't know if we've gotten one of those in a while.
Yeah, so we can look into it. I'm not entirely sure. I know this year the team is actually preparing. We have one SHPO grant that we're going to be submitting this week, and then we'll be following up next month or in April for the cemetery grant. So we are applying for 2 grants, and with the budget process coming up, basically those those funds are accounted for through the previous budget cycle. But my goal would be just to continue to budget for the max amount that you can get. So there's 16,000 and 8,000 available. We spoke to the grant coordinator at SHPO just a couple weeks ago. Some of them are non-competitive. It's basically throw your name in the hat and you're going to be awarded. So I think it's probably going to be something we could just continue to do. But we can explore, potential offsets for application fees. Happy to.
Thank you. That was all I had on this goal.
Okay. So then I think here is where we pick up the conversation again. So this is the conversation regarding goal 7, recognize and promote notable historic restorations. And the action items here are annual acknowledgements, on-site recognition, and support for historic plaque availability and costs. And I do have some notes, and Sandy did want to mention, that the on-site recognition, what might we be looking for the on-site recognition? I know, is it, potentially exploring the idea of when a project was reviewed by the HLC, and then maybe there's a sign up on the property, or I just wanted to, now I'll just open it up for an overall discussion on these.
I think it was for someone that came before us, like applied for some work to be done and then actually completed it. I think we wanted to give them recognition somehow. And I wasn't entirely certain what we wanted to do. You guys might know. Does the beautification committee give a certificate to like a homeowner that wins? Or is that?
They give them like a wooden plaque to display for a month or something like that.
Okay. And maybe we could do something like that? Something like someone actually completed their historic renovation or a project. Maybe we could have like a rotating plaque or some kind of acknowledgement that they can proudly display somewhere on their property.
That's an interesting idea.
May I,
Yes, please, Bob.
I have asked for this before, and I'll ask for it again. We need a report card on how our applications are going. The old hotel, I think it's the Oak right across the street from us here. We approved the whatever. But there were questions of things that had been covered up, like the entranceway and so on and so forth, and that we had no idea what it was going to look like when they uncovered it. I would like to see us as a historic group keep track of our own work and maybe have a little show and tell every meeting we have that they've gone out and taken some pictures of the construction, what they found and what it's looking like and so on and so forth, rather than each one of us traipsing over there and trying to get tangled up in the sawhorses and so on and so forth. So we have several outstanding applications that have been approved and nothing's happened on them. And so we would even like to know that we've gone through the process and then the homeowner backed out and decided that it was not what he wanted to do after all, or she. So it kind of keeps us up to in touch with what we're doing when we approve an application, similar to what we've got some wonderful pictures here today of what the buildings look like down at Weber. Well, if we had at our next meeting, providing they get all their other permits they do, and they demolish it, it would be nice if we had some on-screen pictures of what they uncovered when they went in there. And I've thought that gives us a little scorecard to ourselves. Yes, we did the right thing.
Yeah, we could do, we can do some type of staff comment updates on different projects. We'd be happy to do that. One thing I have noticed in my time at the city is HLC applications, preservation work. You
I don't
have
know how time consuming it would be. It doesn't need to be detailed. It's any kind of a photograph. What does the entranceway look like over here? I haven't been able to detect it
yeah.
when I drive down the street. Is it?
Yeah, I just know that like timelines sometimes with HLC, sometimes these, preservation projects take longer than a typical building permit, I would think. We can do our best to like explore some updates to provide it to them, maybe significant milestones of things happening. But there are some applications. I mean, even we spoke about the Granada Theater earlier today. We had Mr. Gomez speak on that. That was approved by HLC years ago, and then it took a long time to get that sign refabricated, so it kind of sat for a long time. But yeah, I mean, we can explore more, like staff updates, during whatever meetings we have scheduled. We could provide some kind of update. Yeah, happy to. Do you want that as part of one of your continuous goals? Annual acknowledgments. I wonder if probably want it more than once a year type of thing. Biannual acknowledgments of, biannual acknowledgments or quarterly acknowledgments of HLC projects, something like that.
I like that.
Yeah.
Or routine acknowledgments or updates. I mean, we could probably wordsmith that a little bit.
Yeah, maybe we change the word to progress reports or something like that, Biannual progress report on ongoing projects or
I
something.
think the annual acknowledgements were something to the property owners that had kind of,
Yeah.
mail out a little certificate or do a presentation at city council or something to that
Okay.
effect.
I don't know if so like Josh was saying, some of these take a long time. Would we have one annually to even acknowledge?
Oh,
I hate to say that, but I mean,
yeah, that's true. Maybe add as possible or something
Yeah,
like that
yeah.
after it.
Yeah, promote acknowledgments of completed projects.
I have no idea myself. Do they ask you to come in and observe what they're doing from time to time, or when we hand them this to go ahead and renovate the hotel, we never look back until they have a ribbon cutting and say, well, you did a wonderful job.
Yeah, I mean, there's maybe Victor may invite people at times, few and far between of, after after an approval, few and far between that they're reaching out to us to go through the process. You know, a lot of times, you know, HLC is like that first step before an individual goes even through the land use process, and then there's the building permitting process. So it's, yeah, it can be a while before it happens. I think at times, yeah, maybe some individuals do reach out to us, but it's few and far between.
Do the applicants usually follow what they've been approved to do? I mean, does anybody know? I just remember Eric catching some windows, bathroom windows that had been put in that were vinyl, and should have been wood. But
Yeah, I mean, full transparency. I don't know if we are, you know, as staff going and checking, you know, following through on it. That's not uncommon to even our building permit process, you know, since we don't have a building codes division here at the city. Once someone receives a building permit, they're then dealing with the county, you know, so there are some gaps in the overall process of land development in the city. So, you know, maybe that's something that could be a goal. Does that fit here? I don't know, could.
just curious about.
No, yeah, it's a great point.
And I don't know if the on-site recognition, if it needs to go in there, but I think we have this college with a fabrication department. So,
Mhm.
you know, when it comes to some kind of a on-site plaque or something like that, we should be maybe working with some of the students or the
Yeah.
local program with that.
Yeah, we could do that if they wanted to do any kind of like on-site recognition, different from the, you know, plaques that are received by beautification committee, just to the point of sometimes these restorations take longer than others. It would seem almost more appropriate to have some kind of recognition that goes to each individual property, because, you know, if we're doing it once every month, then some of them are quicker than others, you know. I do know, like at the Oaks Hotel, there is, you know, you see the sign in the front that it was funded by SHPO. So it could be something like that.
So a few years ago, I did this little thing with the city where you get to go to each department and you get to learn about every department in the city and everything. And at the end of it, they gave me a pretty little certificate that was by the city and everything. Maybe if we're not giving an on-site recognition, if they have completed something, maybe we give them a nice certificate that's like signed by the mayor or something like that. Like, thank you for your time and for enhancing our city. I don't know, preserving our city.
I think that's a great idea, actually.
But they would
So
actually have to complete it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, and that's something that we could consider.
Yeah, I think that would be nice. And then I don't think staff has to go out and look at every site, maybe just shoot an email. Have you completed this yet? And then if so, maybe then go out and take a picture and for our, Bob
Yeah.
wanted, for our report card. And then, yeah, then they can get the certificate for actually completing the work that they've applied for.
Yeah,
Yeah, it might be a great way to incentivize completing the work. It's like, by the way, once you're done, you're going to get the shiny new thing, you know.
yeah,
for-
right. So acknowledgement of project completion
Yeah,
type of thing.
yeah. I mean, unless someone else thinks otherwise, I like that.
No,
That seems good.
'cause ultimately that's the goal, right? We want people to finish the project.
Yeah.
It's easy to start a project.
Exactly.
They could submit a photo of their finished work.
So with that, I think the conversation's kind of gone around, you know, this acknowledgement, but there's also, would you be looking at on-site recognition or?
Maybe not, because like you said, it takes a while and someone might just sit with that for a year before anything else is actually completed that we could give it to. And I don't know if that's really appropriate, because then how would we determine who's getting that recognition? Just because you completed a project? What if 3 people completed their project?
Everybody that completes projects should get a thing. Yeah. So
Yeah.
So, yeah,
I like the certificate idea, but I also like that kind of public acknowledgement of,
You did that.
yeah,
Yeah.
if they,
What does it mean? What is on-site recognition? A plaque or something?
That's what we're
physical
deciding.
or-
That's what we're discussing. So the beautification committee, they give a little plaque that's passed
Right.
around.
Oh, okay.
And so,
that, like they post in the yard or
Yeah.
something.
They have to give it up to somebody else.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I
But they
think
also
that-
usually have a photo op. They always stand in front of the property with a, and
yeah,
put
I've
it
seen
in
it
the
on
local paper,
Facebook.
so,
Yeah. So that would be,
Our local newspaper could probably make a good story out of most anything. That if they had some kind of advance notice that it was happening. And be able, they might photograph it for nothing, but, there's no continuation after they apply for their application and we approve it here. We have no no idea what actually took place.
So maybe acknowledgement of project completion, including on-site recognition.
Yeah.
And then it can be, it's a little vague, so it could be that, maybe it's both, you know? The other side of it is if you're in the historic district and you're doing preservation, you should be getting approval from the HLC anyways. So it's one of those things of, recognizing you for following the rules, I guess, is one way to look at it. But it's also, I think, I think if maybe we add that in there.
See, we had an example of it right here in front of us this evening. When the man came back from the Granada.
Mr. Gomez?
Yes.
Yes.
And told us how grateful he was that he's had the opportunity to do this and this. But it isn't gonna make the street. Nobody else is gonna know about it except us. And that is not how we promote. We
Yeah.
gotta branch out.
I also think, and taking another example that happened tonight, the Weber Cleaners, when that renovation was done, I don't think people recognize that that was done in accordance with historic landmarks criteria. It was just, oh, they've remodeled that building. It's got a new facelift on there. And I think there's no widely knowledge that that was actually criteria that had to be met to restore or preserve that historic aspect of that building.
Right.
Yeah, you get some kind of a sign that says, done in partnership with City of the Dalles Historic Landmarks or something,
Yeah. Yeah, I think the language here does give us a little bit, staff an opportunity to kind of figure out the best way to do this. I mean, I'm hearing, maybe a letter from the mayor, on-site recognition. Maybe there's some acknowledgement at the end of the year and some kind of annual report. I think we would have an opportunity to work with this. Definitely gives us something to chew on. If everybody's in support of that, we can go to the next one. Yeah.
I like it.
And then I think the other action item, support for historic plaque availability and cost. I think this was kind of addressed on a previous goal, but I also think it's important. Those we want people to have these plaques up, and we know that when we look into replacing some of the plaques that we have, it is going to come at a cost. So that is probably also something that could fit into a grant.
Did we want to combine that then? I'm asking the commission this, sorry. Did we want to combine that last little action item from goal 7 to go with goal number 4? Because there's where we have the create the prototype design for the historic building plaques and promote their installation. Or is this, do we feel that this should be a separate action item on a separate goal as it is right now? I'm just asking. I don't have an answer.
I think I like them as separate because one is kind of getting that design made and everything, and then the other is,
Kind of supporting the
yeah.
financial end of it. Okay. That's all I had.
Okay. Well, we will jump to goal 8. Goal 8 is collaborate with Main Street, the Dalles Arts Center, and Urban Renewal Partners. I think this action item here is to strengthen communication and coordination, restoration projects, goals, and long-term downtown vision.
Only thing I might change is kind of what Victor was saying. It's the community college that has the fabrication class or whatever it is. I don't know if we should mention the community college or just local partners. How does everyone else, what do y'all think?
I like the community college being added on.
Yeah, in a dream world, it would be great to have like a historic preservation program up at the college or something like that. Maybe we start with plaques and
Work our way up.
build it.
I like it how it stands now. Anyone else have any questions or comments on that? You have a question on that, Bob? Are you looking for something in particular?
Nope, I do not.
Okay.
All right. Well, we will jump to goal 9, which is support the collection, documentation, and long-term preservation of local history through oral histories and written records. So the action item here is maintain up-to-date historic interpretation resources, including the historic walking tour in all formats. That's the only question I had, is the all formats and little.
I think it was last time I tried to access it on my Android phone, it would not work at all. And I don't know if I don't have an iPhone to test it out on, so I don't know
Okay.
if there was an issue with the format on my phone or all phones.
Okay.
What I am looking at here and asking again, who do we contact for, is it updated? Who do we come back to you, Josh? Uh,
Yeah, so
Sure, people ask, who do we talk to about it, or who answers the questions?
Like if we need to add another historic site onto it or something like, okay.
Well, yeah, but they must hand out a flyer someplace when you're buying a ticket to get on the tour boat, or when you're already on the tour boat, they hand you a flyer, would you like to participate in this? Somewhere somebody hands, and if they had a question, who do they call?
yeah, if there's any tech issues associated with it, unfortunately, that is handled by the company that created it. Which is rather unfortunate, actually. I think there was a question that came up. Sandy ran it by me. Do we have any metrics associated with this? I discussed metrics with them 18 months ago, and then we haven't really had any additional conversations since. They would do the updating. I do have an iPhone. I checked it a little bit ago. It is working, so that is unfortunate. I mean, it's definitely for something for us to take a look at. I got a note here to dig into it further. But yeah, to your point, it's direct. We don't have access to it. That is a little bit of my critique of how it's set up, is we don't have the control, and the company, I think, is based out of the East Coast or something. Small company, keep that in mind. We are able, when you pick up the phone to call, you're talking to the owner of the company, which is nice. But yeah, the rest of it is kind of, if I want those metrics, I have to reach out and ask if there's, different things that go into it. So, not having the system in-house it can be kind of a drag at times, to be honest.
Yeah, because it would be good to know how many people are going to, what are the most
Yeah.
popular sites. what's getting missed completely, those kind of things.
Yep, exactly. So the funding for this was moved into our tourism fund just in the last few years. I know it was in our community development was, I think, a paying for it before that. There's also just some coordination with them on updating our contract that's been a bit delayed with them.
And being the company. So.
Yeah, yeah.
Company goes under, we lose everything.
Yeah,
Okay.
effectively. And that's the unfortunate part is because, and you know, the conversation that I did want to, you know, have around plaques and the walking tour app is, you know, we spent the money, we coordinated with a lot of property owners to put these plaques up that have the QR codes that are very specific to the walking tour app. So when we're thinking about these new plaque designs, is it the intent of the commission? And we don't have to make a decision right now, but is the intent of the commission to continue to have those 2 plaques on every property? That's where I think we need to, when we start talking about plaque design, we need to put our heads together about what's the best way moving forward. I know that some property owners, I'm dealing with one property owner who disagrees with the historic name that we put on the plaque. So he's yet to put the sign up. But you know,
That's the walking tour one.
yeah. And the unfortunate thing with that is that was created through a grant. It was created through a graphic designer that was paid for through the grant. So for me to go back and change that plaque, I have to then contact a graphic designer that I'm not entirely sure the best way to contact them. So yeah, I think overall it's a really great, it's awesome having everybody's voices on there talking about the history of the different buildings, but I just hope that we need to ensure that it's a sustainable format.
That might be an action item, is actually making sure we have like, you know, the walking tour, the recordings or something, you know, that, I mean, we all went, I mean, I went in the radio station, recorded about a dozen of them or something. I bet
Yeah.
we could get that, you know, that those recordings and stuff. If we had to rebuild it, we'd at least have the, you know, the vocal parts of it and stuff. So
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
but yeah, we should have that. At least, I mean, if they have it too, that's great, but we should have it in case of if they just go out of business or whatever. We want
Right.
that to disappear on us.
Agree.
And I'm pretty sure it was a local, some of the local musician engineer that did the recordings. They did them at like Y102.
I think so. Yeah.
Kyle, someone, yeah.
Yep.
Julie had a comment?
The goal 9 is really ambitious, but there aren't any action items that support preserving, collecting, documenting long-term histories. For example, where would one put an oral history? Is the library, I mean, what happens to it? If I interview Eric and Sam Woolsey, which I've done, what do I do with that?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, aside from the very specific action item where some of that oral history is recorded, yeah, not too entirely sure. This was taken from what, goals 18 and 21 were the original goals. So the original goals were encourage the collection and preservation of local history, including irreplaceable oral and written histories, and keep the walking tour current in all formats. So it does come from an existing goal that the HLC had, but that's, yeah, it's a great question, and we can tweak it, whatever we need to do, whatever we feel that it needs to be a little more actionable, whatever the case may be. Happy to work with you here.
Yeah, and it says,
Encourage rather than support.
Well, support could also be maybe HLC supports like what the Wasco County Courthouse is doing in the Carl Verkuderen series, right? I mean, they're doing an amazing job and all that.
Books that Carl did about two that.
And Roger's like storing all, archiving all those older talks and stuff. And so maybe there's some way that HLC supports the original Wasco County Courthouse in their archival work. Just a thought.
Finished that project, by the way.
Did he? Amazing.
Buy them down there at the courthouse. They'll put them on a stick for you.
Yeah, amazing.
Now they're like 167 or something. And those are just the voice ones, just the audio ones. The video ones are all online.
So I might be wrong. Doesn't this Discovery Center like have a storage area with a bunch of audio recordings? Maybe I'm wrong on that.
I think they do.
Okay.
Not positive.
I'll go check with Susan. I think it's interesting.
I think they were one of the backup locations for the cassette tapes and stuff that some of those programs were on. So
Okay.
That's what I thought. Okay. I don't know if it's a good thing having all our historical recordings and audio things in different places, but I don't know where a central location would be to store everything like that, because I'm assuming if it's cassette tapes and different hard medias, it's going to take up quite a bit of space.
And at some point it deteriorates too. So it should all be digitized and stored in separate places for redundancy,
Yeah.
So I put this up here. I'm just kind of throwing it out as y'all are kind of chatting, and I don't know if that's something that you were looking at. I feel it's a little redundant saying support twice in there, so I could probably tweak that a little bit. But does that?
Sounds good to me.
mhm.
Okay.
doesn't have to be perfect. Yeah.
Oh, it does. We're gonna finish it tonight. It's gonna be perfect. If we need to, and if I can get, at the end of this, your all's blessing, if context stays the same and I can think of wordsmithing anything slightly, maybe that's something that we'll do before I give it, before we finalize it. All right, we'll move on to goal 10. So goal 10 is support the preservation, maintenance, and interpretation of key historic sites such as Pioneer Cemetery, Historic Chinatown, Rock Fort, etc. And the action items are seek cemetery grant, SHPO grants, create digital and searchable inventory, design informational signage for the cemetery, determine current condition and existing gravesite documentation, and headstone rehabilitation. That one's very specific, so I think we know exactly what to do. Pursue appropriate compatible infill development. Pursue appropriate signage, define types of signs wanted. And then continued adherence to adopted preservation and maintenance plans. So, as I've mentioned, we are applying for a cemetery grant here coming up. I think that's the one that's due in April. That one is going to be, I have to check with our team again. I think that one has to do with just overall documentation there. We are also looking into partnering with the University of Oregon Sustainable Cities Year Program, which is a program that will provide student assistance in the event that we are partnered with them. Counselor Randall heard our presentation on Monday regarding this partnership. I think we're in pretty good shape as far as whether or not this will move forward. There is a budget impact that our teams are working on making sure it can happen. But the focus of that, there's actually, just kind of give a little spiel on that. It's we've currently outlined about 13 to 15 projects. Each project ranges from around 5,000 to 25,000, but a good average is about $13,000 is the actual average that they have been seeing. And this work is going to include work in housing, historic preservation, economic development, and transportation. And we've highlighted with that work plan, we've highlighted 4 historic preservation projects. So, it's our intent. I, fully acknowledge the fact that this board oversees applications. You hear applications throughout the year, but I do think that there is some additional like strategic planning efforts, like what we're doing here, to continue moving our historic preservation program at the Dalles forward. And it's a heavy lift, and just with changes of staff over the years, we haven't been able to move some of these forward. And some of those big ones are updating our historic inventory. That's a huge undertaking. So the 4 programs projects we're looking at with the University of Oregon would be working on updating our inventories, working on updating design standards as well as our historic ordinance, working on doing some pioneer cemetery work, as well as work on activating Rock Fort. So these projects are, led by department staff at the University of Oregon, and we're not hiring consultants. We're hiring students to work on some of these projects, and then from there we'll be able to take them, one step further. But it's really quite a great bang for your buck compared to bringing on consultants. So fingers crossed that partnership's going to move forward.
That's separate then from like the cemetery grant that you're talking about.
It's separate. So it will basically, we did check with SHPO, and the funds that we receive, if we're awarded from SHPO for those grants, those funds can offset the cost of University of Oregon. So whenever you're applying for a grant, of course, you're going to get the quotes for the consultant or whatever it's going to take to do the project. We were able to, we received quotes to do some of that work, but the other work, we used the quote from the Sustainable Cities Year program. And SHPO said that, that totally checks out as far as funding. So we're able to offset some of the costs and less of an impact to the overall general fund if we're granted those awards. So there's a lot been kind of moving on those, but I want to see some of this historic preservation work moving forward.
Do we have I know for both Rockfort and for the cemetery, we have preservation plans. Are those up on the city's website?
They're not on the city's web. I can say, yeah, they're not. That's actually been a focus of our team too, is that there's still not a website. There's not a historic preservation page. So, something we'll be working on here in this next year. But yeah, that, Pioneer Cemetery Preservation Plan is getting pretty old too. So, hopefully the work that, University of Oregon's doing can help, any kind of updates that are needed, and just, digitizing everything, that's one of the biggest things for us.
Yeah, I noticed that the cemetery map was on the city's website.
Okay. Yeah.
And if you need the original of that,
Okay.
got it.
All right.
You made it.
Yeah.
Great.
Yes. Oh, Julie, please.
A question about how the Historic Landmarks Commission influences anything about infill. What does that mean? Buildings that go up around historic properties, or what is?
Yeah, effectively. I mean, I think this one seems like, of course, it's continuous. It is ultimately ensuring compatible infill development is ensuring that projects comply with the historic ordinance. So that's how I would view this one. And that would say that the same would go with pursuing appropriate signage. Signage is called out as well in the historic ordinance. At some point, the city is probably going to be reevaluating an update to our sign ordinance. That's a huge undertaking, but it would definitely incorporate some work with historic signage as well, because ultimately our historic code and our sign code, there's some conflicting information in there. So,
I mentioned infill. I was thinking about, what if someone with an historic property decided they wanted to build like a, what do they call them? Granny,
Oh, an
an accessory
accessory.
dwelling. Would that kind of thing have to come here?
yeah, if it's on a historic property or in a district, it would come in front of the HLC for that
I was
construction.
thinking in terms of infill.
Yep.
But
Yep, it would be any development in our district or on historic property would come before the HLC.
And that's kind of what the design guidelines that we have kind of not only talk about the renovation of historic properties, but also compatible infill.
So this is just a nitpick because I do legal writing all day. I would like to see all the ampersands removed and just type "and" because ampersand should only be for a formal name or informal writing. And since this is going to be a formal document for our goals in the city and people can see this, I just noticed it now, but I think there was a couple other times that it pops up. But
Yeah, definitely. That'll be part of our kind of our final review on it. And honestly, what to me, nitpicking things, I would prefer that etc. is not listed as well.
What?
Yeah. Like maybe including, yeah. So like I said, we will clean these up, before they're packaged up. I do feel though that this is probably if all this checks out, if there's any other changes you'd like to make, we're happy to do them now. But other than that, I would like to see maybe there's no more there has never been really a formal action to adopt our goals by any means, but if we could have maybe an overall consensus with these goals that we went through, and if you give me the authority to go through and make any of those final details, final changes before they're finalized in-house, then we can go from there.
I like them. I mean, we've worked through them, so I think I like it. Yeah, Victor.
Yeah. So the one, and maybe I missed it, but one thing that we talked about was I had the idea of working with the title offices to make some kind of a layer where if people are buying historic property, they understand what they're getting into at the time of purchase.
Yeah.
Working with realtors and things like that. I didn't see that anywhere. Maybe I just missed it. And I'm not sure which goal that would apply into, but it's the whole ounce of prevention, pound of cure kind of thing,
Can't remember. Oops, apologies. I wonder if it would.
No.
I feel like it would have recognized and promote. No,
I think
it could fit in here.
I think we want it as an action item. I mean, my opinion.
I would say we could explore it if that works. At least exploring it. I know Sandy had touched base. She touched base briefly with me on it.
Uh-huh.
We'd have to see if we can require an individual to do it.
Yeah, it just seems like a smart thing to do. I can say
Yeah.
from my own experience, like I didn't know till I was signing papers that I was buying a historic property, and I had no idea what it entailed until,
Yeah,
You
then the
know.
journey begins.
and on that deal across from me on 4th Street, and they did a bunch of stuff, and the realtor ended up buying a bunch of siding for that project because they didn't know what they're, the
Yeah.
situation that they're in. So it seems like it's much better to let people know ahead of time instead of having people be angry with realtors or the city or with us or.
Yeah, I will add it here, and in case it's like duplicated somewhere else, I don't think it was.
It looks like it probably would fall under goal 6. It's not specifically mentioned there, but it says, provide accessible historic preservation, education, training, and resources to support local homeowners, contractors, commissioners,
Yeah.
and the broader community. So
Yeah, that's a good spot.
Or, I mean, I don't know if it would necessarily be called a deed restriction. Maybe it's like explore deed.
And in my mind, it'd just be an acknowledgement, at closing, you're signing about 40 pages of papers, and it's like, and just so you acknowledge this property is in a historic district, and there may be there may be, you know, things that you are required to do or aren't allowed to do, or whatever the verbiage is, but just someone acknowledges that they're buying a historic property in a historic district.
Oh, yeah,
And they're-
disclaimer, disclosure. Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to make it too gnarly, but also just not blindside people.
Um,
I think you could do, I mean, I'm not super familiar with Oregon law, but in California, you could usually add in a disclosure, a city disclosure. Um, for where I was at, you had to have the tsunami disclosure, earthquake disclosure, fire disclosure. Maybe there's something we could do, historic disclosure.
Historic property disclosure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's possible, but that's something I was familiar with.
Well, we can make it a goal, and if it's not possible, then, it's not possible, but.
Yeah.
is this kind of capture it? Like I said, I can
I think
wordsmith,
so.
explore historic property disclosures
Yeah.
for prospective buyers. Okay. All right. Yeah. So other than that, is there anything else regarding the goals? Well, I do want to thank everybody for the time that you put into this. I think our goal process is typically it's pretty quick. It's maybe like one meeting, half a meeting. You guys sat through a marathon here, so I think you should pat yourselves on the back. And I also said, like in the beginning, I think this is a good way to look at our goals a bit more strategically than how they've been in the past, by still kind of keeping the overall idea and focus of those original goals.
Yeah, Victor?
Yeah, I think we should definitely acknowledge Sandy's hard work. She did a
Yeah.
lot of work and a lot of like really good ideas, and
Yeah.
I'm sure you were helping her along, but yeah, we should definitely appreciate her work.
Yeah, definitely. She did a great job. All
Thank you,
right.
Josh. Moving on to our next item of the agenda, staff comments. Josh.
I feel like I filled you all in with some comments throughout. Like I said, I think that our team has been working on this sustainable cities project. That's been a big focus, figuring out the best way. It's a really weird process because it's a process where a city or a municipality makes a commitment to the University of Oregon, and then you go into the budget process. So it's a bit backwards, but I think we had a pretty good presentation on Monday and in front of City Council. And I think there's overall support, definitely overall support from multiple different departments that we're working on. So yeah, hopefully we'll be working with them here in the next week or two to figure out if that partnership will be moving forward. So pretty excited about it. Aside from that, we are moving forward on the First Street project. You've probably seen that. That project is, going to last quite a while. Right now, we're currently addressing some initial, parking traffic type of issues that are already popping up with it. As you can imagine, I think overall, I think there's some frustration, but I think overall everybody has been relatively understanding to what's at hand here. So, yeah, and with that, like I said, probably with Sandy out, I think she might be out for a little bit. Feel free to contact me with any questions that you have regarding HLC. Currently, there are no applications that are in. But I think, as a matter of cleanup, as far as previous, upcoming conversations, I do want us to have a conversation coming up soon about potentially modifying the code regarding those fees or regarding the noticing associated with applications. I think we, had a brief conversation about it. Also, probably wanted to take a look at the HLC bylaws. So bylaws a little bit different than the historic ordinance. Bylaws are really good to be updated, probably every 10 years. And I think these are much longer than that.
Do we even have bylaws?
Yeah, and that's, I believe we do. Yeah. Yeah.
How
So
old are they? Yeah.
exactly. I got to take a look. But it is, kind of some house cleaning. It's our housekeeping. We, myself and the city attorney went through and we've updated the urban renewal bylaws in recent years, planning commission bylaws in recent years. So I think just an overall matter of housekeeping is a good thing. So aside from that, that's all I got for you this evening.
Thank you very much, Josh. Appreciate your help tonight. Commissioners, any comments for tonight before we look to adjourn? Eric, yeah, please.
So I noticed that Sandy had a few notes on signage in the staff report. She'd looked into stuff about, the current plaques.
Hmm.
And I did a little bit of poking around too. I talked to Curry Gill at Chippo because those, our current plaques, the shield, have the state seal on the top of them. And she said that she'd done some digging into that and could not for the life of her find out who made those signs or who approved those signs or when those signs were approved and everything. But she thought we'd probably be okay duplicating those signs. So I might go up to I've got to go up to the college in the workshop up there to do a couple other things. So maybe I'll ask them about if that's something within their capabilities, because I think there is some value to just kind of maintaining the signs as they are. She had looked into National Register signs, but those usually tend to be a brass plaque that says when the property was placed on the National Register and not much more information other than that. And the good thing about ours is they've got kind of the story of the property on them. So I'll kind of check into that. The Auto House saga continues. I think it seems like we're going to pursue deconstructing it and trying to find a forever home for it. So we'll see how that goes.
Thank you, Eric.
Yep.
Any further comments from the commission tonight? Seeing none, I would take a motion for adjournment. Seeing none, we'll sit here all night.
Also move.
Meeting's adjourned.
Great. Thank you.